Hello and welcome back to Better Than Adventure. So last time I started kind of building this out, and then I got distracted building a little park, and we're continuing that because, here's a little hint: if you want to build fast, build parks. All you need are, like, saplings and bone meal, and some, like, stone for the path. It's actually surprisingly cheap. Yeah, that's kind of my pro tip. If you want to build for scale, I mentioned this before, just make parks. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, so, as you can see on the outside, this place already looks so much nicer when there's this thing over here. We should also build something, like, over here somewhere, because, well, it's just stupid not to. Having just one sorta, giant area. Oops. I'll just leave it as is for now. Just having this one giant building and nothing around it is honestly a little bit weird, which is a part of the reason why I've decided to, embark on this, journey, as you could call it. This tree is in the way. And we lost the tree lottery, so let's start, what's up there? I fucked up. Go back. No. Oh, it's still trees, and my render distance is at a Silent Hill. Yeah, you know what? Shit. For a little bit, I'm going to play on the Silent Hill render distance. Wow, this is actually kind of creepy. If I hit F1s, so it goes from 228 to 16. Yeah, okay. There's no short render distance then, it's just from tiny to normal, question mark? There we go. Oh wait, this is gonna look fucked up. Oops, I built it too early. It's now gonna look weird forever. Unless I destroy it again and do the tree lottery again. Put this there to remind myself, and let's build a little fountain. How do we do that? Oh god, it's snowing. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Then a few more of these. One more. Then we get bricks. 3. Let's remind ourselves that we are not working with stable ground because that's for losers. Then 1, 2, 3, and there we go. Then do this, and yeah, it's snowing. Finally. Ain't that fun? Then we'll just dig up, like, the area immediately surrounding the fountain. Then I'll go down there to collect it, and then we'll, like, actually build the little, area surrounding it. But oh yeah, this is the underground part here. It was, because this was previously not the way it is now. I had to fill it in, because originally, this beach was kind of destroyed when I was doing some stuff, aka, collecting sand for the build. But then I started taking sand from other places and realized I should probably fix this part up, because I realized, wait, I want to do something with this space. Okay. So now with that done, I'm gonna climb up, destroy, like, the remaining leaves, and there's a lot of them, actually. Actually, yeah. I'm curious how... I'm pretty sure leaf decay works by the game, like, randomly selecting leaves, and then trying to remove them. I'm fine with this tree existing. If it wasn't, I would have immediately destroyed it. This one's also fine. And over here, on this edge, place a third one, and this one's also fine. So there we go. If I open up this, now I have to change a little bit of the... No, I accidentally opened 2 instances of File Explorer, which is fine. So, yeah. Honestly, my next step should be getting to this pool. Actually, it should be lighting this area up, fencing off something over there, and then doing whatever else I can. Also, it's funny how... Is the world gen spherical now? Interesting. So yeah, I'm going to use this time to light stuff up. Yeah, because something nice here is that this originally had literally no sand. Hello. So I had no reason to destroy it. Okay. Why do they launch you a mile away? Yeah, though, also, uh-oh. Pretty big uh-oh, actually. Oh, there's a cave. Ow, ow. Let me just eat. Huh. Oh yeah, look. Mobs just spawn out here. I guess there may not be that many caves underneath, so they have nowhere else to go. They've noticed me. So, wait. Oh, I should have removed that a long time ago. Whatever. I make my mistake. I made a mistake here. I make my escape. But, as you can tell, those pressure plates that I use are, a little bit problematic. Yeah, also, I'll need these to cover up that. But yeah. And as you probably know, the way to get up there in sleep is a little bit annoying, but it works. I've experimented with buildings which are, in some places, like they have 3 block thick walls, because that means that you can have a little hidden passage. But yeah, nah, I've never been that bothered. One of the more interesting mods that I've seen has to be Forge Microblocks for, well... there's 2 of them now! Why do they sometimes explode and sometimes don't? Yeah, I don't know. Creepers exploding has to be the most annoying part of the game. But you just kind of get used to it, so... The idea it should be removed is just... completely confusing and stumping and whatever other word people use to describe when they just can't fathom something. It's like... Oh my god, how come you could do something like that? I mean, dude, well, think about it. It's a creeper. It's been in the game forever. How could you even touch that mechanic? But, like, the point of updating isn't to just add new features, it's to make old features function, you know, in accordance to whatever new thing is added. The beautiful thing about Minecraft, as opposed to live service games, is that there is no Minecraft version, right? There is a Bedrock, but Bedrock is an inferior copy of the original game, and it doesn't matter. The issue with Bedrock is that it's never gonna replace, you know, Java. And if it did, a lot of players would stick with Java and then just import whatever new features, you know, Bedrock did in Java. The issue also with Java is that you really can't monetize it with paid mods or whatever, like you can with Bedrock. And Bedrock does perform faster, but it's also extremely buggy and unstable. And as it has been proven time and time again, when presented with the option of stability or speed, people choose stability. You know, like, people like it when their game doesn't crash, versus it's running fast but then randomly crashing or breaking, or, like, you know, the netcode exploding so they die, because in a single-player world they're getting multiplayer lag. You know, nobody likes that sort of stuff. Except Mojang, because the Mojang team has seen a lot of issues in Bedrock, and then their response is, yeah, we won't fix this. Why? Nobody knows, but they just sometimes don't care to fix bugs. And, like, what is there to do? You can't, like, you know, you can't expect players to move to an inferior version of the game, and you know, Mojang knows we won't. So that's why Java hasn't been left behind. It's because it is a superior version. It's because Bedrock sucks. It's just... One of the most interesting things is, Minecraft developers have access to Java code, right? But Bedrock still plays differently enough to where I don't understand why they just couldn't port a lot of the features, like semi one-to-one or one-to-one. Stuff like the way the movement handles, right? There is nothing, like, intrinsic about the way Java handles its movement. You know, like, there's nothing intrinsic to Java. Nothing would stop Mojang from just importing the code that they use, like, just copy and pasting the control code, with how they handle, like, stuff like mouse acceleration, so that, like, you know... And actually, no, they have changed how mice feel in the new version, where in the old one, it's just like raw controller, like, you know, raw control input. In the modern versions of Minecraft, I'm pretty sure they tried to add some smoothing, which I don't know how well that has worked out for them, if at all. Because, you know, realistically, most people don't notice. But when you try to play Bedrock, you do notice that there's a lot of this weird added smoothing. And it's gross. It's like seeing the interpolation of, like... It's like seeing those shitty interpolated, like, you know, me after the lobotomy clips of Studio Ghibli footage. It's just ugly. You know? It's just like... Nobody really, or most people at least, don't want a cinematic camera unless they're doing, you know, something really specific for which they need a cinematic camera for. But oh no, Mojang will do it anyways. Okay, F8. Here we go. This is obviously really exaggerated. But you can imagine, you know, controlling this is painful. But you can imagine, you know, it's, well, it is cinematic. Like, if you would be following that, you know, and then you, ooh, wow, looking around. Thing is, though, what I find funny is, it's delayed in a very weird way, where if you play, like, you know, there's gonna be delay. Like, look, I'm gonna try to rotate the camera exactly 180 degrees from here. See what I mean? And if I do the same movement without the camera, it works again. It's the same, it's just, it's not smooth now. It's normal. Sharp. And also, another funny thing, in my, like, 5th gen videos, one of the things which I remember talking about is just, like, the fact that, like, the jagginess of PS1 graphics kind of gave them a more unique style. Like, N64 games get their charm from the graphics, you know, like the low poly. But PS1 games have two sources of graphics. One of them is the low poly, but the other one is the jagginess. Because if you can imagine, a lot of people do have nostalgia for how, like, you know, the textures had no filtering. They were just sharp. Of course, you can always add bilinear filtering. By the way, this game has no anti-aliasing, but we can add it. Like, and there's the issue. This isn't exactly how it works. But look, you can add anti-aliasing with FXAA. It's just that things kind of, in a way, look ugly in a way. You know, everything looks like it's a little bit out of focus in a game like Minecraft. And if you disable it, wow, it looks sharper. And that's kind of the issue when you go from, like, a PS1 to N64 games. You don't get that, like, you don't get a particularly high-end API for, like, not high-end API. You don't get a high-end version of anti-aliasing. You get this weird Edge AA thing, which I am not well-versed enough to speak on, but it's safe to say it's not particularly good. Ooh, I will want to get a lot of... Yeah, I'm going to, mine some of this stuff up. I'll go... Actually, there's more of it down here. I can just mine it up. The idea is, I know this is... Yeah, I know this is a little bit stupid, but I want to make, like, a little cave here, even if it's not realistic. Just because I think it'll be kind of neat. To have, like, a little cave right next to that. Just one block, but not too many blocks down. So we'll just mine it, like, right down here. A full stack. We'll need more than that, but that's where the plan comes in. Oops. Okay. No, you. Okay, and now that we've done that, I will want to really quickly build what I said I was gonna do up here. Which is like, yeah, this kind of little path. Do I need 1 or 2 stacks of stairs? Sorry, 1 or 2 pieces of stairs. I'll need it for later, so we'll make 2 pieces. You know, one YouTuber who I've kind of been watching on and off was The Beast, because he's playing through every single N64 game. And it's kind of been entertaining. Obviously, there are some things we don't really agree on, but I really like watching him play through a lot of the games. for the simple reason that it is entertaining to you know, see his thoughts. And the biggest entertaining thing to me is watching him play games that other people say were kinda good, but then they're mind-melting. One of those examples that at the time of filming he hasn't played yet was Buck Bumble. Now, you may be wondering, what is Buck Bumble? And the answer is, it's a really, really bad game, which people only remember because it had a, hip-hop slash rap slash I can't place the genre because I am musically illiterate, main theme, which was good. Ish. The entire game sucked. I mean, I say the theme was good-ish because it is about the Buck Bumble, which does knock it down from if it was about anything else. If it was about, like, the starvation of, like, a bunch of people, it'd probably be worse, but, like, not that much worse than if it was about fucking Buck Bumble. The worst part about Buck Bumble specifically is that it is not only a shitty game, but I've seen people play defense for it. A lot of defense. The video called, like, the video that was, like, initial run on Buck Bumble got a lot of dislikes from people who just didn't understand how I didn't like Buck Bumble. Of course, the entire point of that is to play games that I've never played before, that I don't have any nostalgia for, and that I wanna, like, see if I would want to turn them into something, and, you know, the answer for Buck Bumble is just no. No, I would not want to play that again. Never. And the thing is, I had fun playing stuff like... Here's the thing, right? It's fun to play janky games if they're not extremely punishing towards any little mistake, right? Something like even fucking Bubsy 3D, right? You can sort of have fun exploring the game world, or like Body Harvest. You can have fun in that game for the simple reason that, well, if you think about it, it's a big world which you can explore and find stuff in. It's interesting. Buck Bumble has, like, really small-ish levels where basically everything attacks you. You die really quickly, and even if you don't, like, your health doesn't regen between levels, and you have a limited amount of lives that get saved, so you basically have to restart with, like, low health from a save point every time, and it's not a fun experience, like, at all. And, yeah, nostalgia clouding people's views of a game is kinda sad, but, like, it's even sadder when it's something like Buck Bumble. Because, like, well, to some degree I get it, like, loving a childhood video game. I feel like, and this is the issue, the core of every single issue I've had with, like, retro stuff, and, like, the way people act about it, is that a lot of people are unable or unwilling to differentiate between good things and things they like. You know? Like, to a lot of people, if something is good, it means I like this. And if something is bad, it means, you know, they didn't enjoy it. And, while that is okay for, like, interpersonal stuff, it's not when, sorry, for, like, personal stuff, it's not good when you're looking at games in a more critical way. I don't want to call myself a game critic. I am not that. I am a game opinion man. Like, I don't want to critique a game individually for, like, it's this, it's that. I'm much happier, especially with older games, to give you a distinct vibe. because that vibe is a lot more important, in my opinion, than necessarily dissecting every single game mechanic. Because to a degree, you can get over a lot of issues some games have if, I mean, the vibes are there. And if the vibes aren't there, if the game just controls in a really bad or frustrating way, even if there may be value to the game, if it just controls in a way that sucks, you will be a lot less receptive to it. And I think Bubsy is actually a really good example of that. Because, believe it or not, Bubsy's biggest issue are the controls. They're basically, how hard the enemies are to hit are what ruins the game. Bubsy 3D is a harder game by quite a bit than something like Mario 64. And obviously, Mario 64 is a far better game. But man, Bubsy's harder. Bubsy's always been harder. Like, even on the Mega Drive or whatever, it was still a more difficult game, and it still is now on the PS1. And because of that, because it was a 3D platformer, the increased difficulty kind of made it harder to get your bearings. Another game which, in my opinion, is much worse than Bubsy 3D would be Mortal Kombat Special Forces, where the main issue of that game is that, well, the camera fucking sucks, but more importantly, the combat is just not designed. I don't think they designed it. Like, you punch people and you have to, you punch someone, and then you have to keep punching them, and they can punch you equally as hard. And, you know, it's like a primitive hack and slash, where the enemy can do about as, well, like a basic enemy can do about as much damage to you as you do to them. And you don't have any moves that are that special. It sucks. It genuinely does. Arguably a lot more than Bubsy, but it's kind of interesting to me that from the lists that, from, like, the lists that, Sean Johnson pulled from, because the way I figured this out, what people think the worst game is, Bubsy's actually in second place, I'm pretty sure. The first one is Mortal Kombat Special Forces. And I'm not sure how he missed that one. But yeah, like, that is what I arrived at. And I took a look at quite a lot of sources. So yeah, like, but realistically, well, all of them kind of suck. But it's important to say which games suck a little bit more than others. And what's kind of funny is I have a list of 122 bad PS1 games. On the N64, that would be like a third of its library. And honestly, I'd be fine with saying that a third of the N64's library is pure garbage. Because, I mean, have you seen how much of it is, like, Buck Bumble adjacent? Like, you have what? You have Buck Bumble, Chameleon Twist? Like, there's really not a lot here, I'll be honest. And that's kind of a main issue of the N64. Like, yeah, and this is kind of like the overarching argument that nobody ever understands in the videos, like, I remember Nintendo said this themselves, but about the console's performance, right? It's not about the peak of what you can achieve, it's rather the sum of all of the things that are, you know, present. For instance, you know, the PS1 wasn't the fastest, but it was by far the best in terms of multimedia playback. Like, MJPEG versus basically nothing due to cartridge size versus the Saturn's Cinepack on most games. I guess there was the MPEG card, but we're not counting add-ons. You know, like, MJPEG was better than Cinepack. And overall, like, just due to the better multimedia stuff and a really good audio system, the PS1 fucking cleared house. And overall, that's why it sold as well as it did. Because people didn't care about which system could do the most polygons per second, or like which system could display the most sprites on a screen. People cared about people cared about a system that had good games on it, and overall, while the Saturn fought very hard, and the N64 also fought hard, just a little less, Sony won for a reason. That's what I'm trying to say. Same with the PS2. Like, you can bring up a lot of really cool Xbox and GameCube and Dreamcast games, but there's so many great PS2 games that, can you even name them all? I'm sure you can't, because there's like a billion of them. Like, have you heard of Dot Hack? Have you heard of, like, I know there's this one called Rule of Rose, which a lot of people like. You know, there's so many PS2 games, and the same with the PS1. You could name, like, a bunch of PS1 games that nobody's ever heard of, that are still really fun to play, but a lot of people just haven't heard of them because there are a lot of other, also really good PS1 games. You get to an interesting weird point where whenever a system has a lot of games, all of those games collectively lose a bit of value. All except, like, the peak of the system, right? Like, Metal Gear Solid, great game. A lot of other games in the PlayStation 1 are also great, but if you compare stuff like Siphon Filter, like, if you compare a lot of the action games to stuff like Siphon Filter and, you know, Metal Gear Solid and other stealth games, they just don't look as good, even if they are still good. I remember Jason Graves made a good point when he was talking about Super Pitfall on either the NES or the SNES. I'm forgetting which system it came out on because that's not my area of expertise. But he mentioned something which I felt rung so true, and it was that if that system came out on a you know, Atari system, like on the 7800, it would have been heralded as one of the best 7800 games. But because it came out on the Nintendo system, and Nintendo already had, you know, other games on it, it just kind of ended up falling flat because on its own system there were so many better options. I feel like this also kind of clouds a lot of the discussion around systems like the Commodore 64, where the thing was that very often a lot of the games that got big were very homegrown, and realistically they weren't as big a lot of the time, so they're just not as well known. And there is some cool stuff on the Commodore, like someone managed to do some insane stuff with the Turrican 2 on like 16 colors, but realistically speaking, you know, there's just a lot of stuff, okay, that people need to get out of their heads. And the biggest thing they have to get out of their heads is that the N64 defined 3D gaming or whatever. I remember there was a video where the guy was like, it was the first 3D gaming console with, like, you know, it was the first 3D gaming console with solid 3D. But by solid 3D, he meant it was the first 3D graphic system with 3D rendering that supported sub-pixel positions and perspective-correct texture mapping at the same time. Because the 3DO supported sub-pixel rendering. But, like, you know. And then you get into the argument of, okay, well, what counts, what doesn't count? You could say, you know, other true things, such as, the PS1 was the first 3D system which supported advanced multimedia playback. You could say the Saturn was the first, like, multiprocessor system with 3D. You could genuinely say the Sega Saturn, because I think it launched a little bit earlier than the PS1, was the first system that could really do 3D. And honestly, yeah, the 3DO came out first, before that. But the Saturn was the first system where 3D... I mean, the PlayStation 2, but the Saturn came out, like, a fucking minute earlier or whatever. And, like, the Saturn was the first system that could actually do 3D in real time at, like, 20 or 30 FPS with games that looked good. Compare that to the 3DO, and it's like half a PlayStation's worth of power, and yeah. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. We did quite a lot of work. We could build something up here. We could maybe then make a path down here. I don't know, I'll see. I'll see you then when I'll see what to do. Goodbye.